Well, I've been on a roll in terms of these live albums, and I mean, I've been craving concerts so much lately. Like, I'm just about to be vaccinated, or at least the first dose, which means that concerts are just along the horizon. I can almost see them. So, in my to sedate that need that I have for these live performances, I've been listening to a lot of live performances. I've been putting them a lot on my TV to watch, and got me thinking about these full studio albums that are like performed in their entirety in a live show that have then been recorded. I wanted to talk about my favorite five, just five, because a lot of times bands will do this either to honor a album that has just been released and they'll play it in their entirety, or the album has met a milestone, like it's their 10th, 15th, 20th anniversary, so they'll play it in its entirety, especially if it's the album that broke them out to a general live audience. And there's a lot of these, especially when it comes to progressive rock. So I've narrowed it down to five because I didn't want to talk too much about these. Yeah, I figured it'll be a good time. Now, these aren't ranked. I'm not saying that the first one is going to be the best or the worst. The same with the last one. I'm just going to say, like, count them up. So start at one and go right to through five, just to kind of help structure this a little bit more. So let's dive in and talk about some of these great studio albums that have been recorded in entirety in a live performance. Starting off with number one, Pulse from Pink Floyd, showcasing the entirety of Dark Side of the Moon. So the last official recorded, at least chronologically, show from Pink Floyd. I've already talked about Pulse a little bit in my top 10 quintessential progressive rock live albums. This is the one where they produce the entirety of the Dark Side of the Moon, and it's really hard for almost like taking snippets from The Whirlwind or 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence or Thick as a Brick to play a single piece outside of the context of the overall whole. Always felt strange to me. So whenever I listen to a live performance, like specifically on A Delicate Sound of Thunder, where you would hear, tracks from Dark Side of the Moon where it didn't bleed from the last track or continue with the next track, it always felt unnatural to me. So the fact that they put the entirety of the album on here was just perfect. And they do a fantastic job of reproducing this, even though it's like 20 years, almost 20 years, maybe 15 years after the fact. I don't know anything else I can say about this, so let's just move on to the next one. Number two, Colors Live, Between the Buried and Me, playing their entire album of Colors. So, I mean, this one goes without saying. Now, Between the Buried and Me is a band that will play an entire album live in their concerts and then do a couple of encore tracks. This was what happened when I saw them twice. I saw them play the entirety of the Parallax, and they do have the live production of Parallax in studio, which I almost put on here. And they did the same thing with Coma Eclectic. But I still think Colors is probably their best live performance. It's raw, it's visceral, the energy of the crowd playing off with them. It provides such a great energy. If you have the live CD that comes with the DVD, you can see how much of an impact both parties are having. I can't help but love this performance. And I love the overall concert as well. I think this is one of their best live performances. It's so much that I actually have it in vinyl format. So yeah, not too much else to say about Colors Live outside of, if you haven't already heard it, go and do so. And let's move on to the next one. Number three, Dream Theater Live Scenes from a Memory, showcasing Metropolis Part 2 as Scenes from a Memory. Okay, so this one I've already talked about in my favorite progressive rock albums, or I guess my favorite progressive rock live albums. Not too much more to say. They already did another one of these. What was that last one that they put out? Distant Scenes or Distant Memories? And they did the 20th anniversary. And it was stellar. I almost put that one on here because I hadn't talked about it yet. But, I mean, at the end of the day, this was the one that took the cake for me. I love their rendition of it. I love how heavy it is. I don't know, there's not too much more that I could already say that hasn't already been said about this album in a number of different ways. I mean, my buddy Travis and I talked about it in our live stream. You can find that up there. So yeah, there's not too much more I can really add to the conversation for this one. If you haven't already seen it or listened to it, go and check it out as we move on to the next one. Number 4, Devon Townsend, Ocean Machine, live at the Ancient Roman Theater, producing the entirety of Ocean Machine. So a little bit of like behind the scenes, I actually did a full length album review of this album that I didn't end up publishing because I didn't talk about the mixing. The only drawback that I have to this one is the mixing is not good. The drums are way too loud on this. Like, that's sometimes the only thing that you can hear within this wall of sound that is the Devon Townsend project. But I still love the fact that it has the entirety of Ocean Machine so well constructed. And he did a live stream earlier this year doing Ocean Machine, and I love how both of these kind of complement one another. How this one is the big sound and the live stream is kind of the more intimate track. But man, having such beautiful tracks such as Funeral and Life and Voices in the Fan, the Death of Music, just being this wash of sound. What I also love on this is the plethora of my favorite tracks on this. Not only do you have Canada, but you also have Deep Peace, 2 of my favorite tracks from him, from Teria, that I really have been trying to find on like a vinyl format. The only thing that I grate a little bit is the fact that the drumming is mixed very, very poorly. But the music that's found on here is top tier. It's beautiful. You need to go and listen to it if you haven't already, as with all these. So that's what I've got for, the Ocean Machine for this one. Let's move on to the last one. Number 5, Opeth, live in concert at the Royal Albert Hall, providing the entirety of Blackwater Park. So when this first came out, I wasn't a big fan of it. I felt like Michael's singing style wasn't where it really needed to be. I felt like it had aged a little bit too much and it didn't have that raw power. But I love the album for a number of different reasons, and it's grown to be one of my favorite live albums from Opeth. It isn't quite my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. The fact that it is a blending between 2 already established brilliant live performances from the Royal Albert Hall. I mean, the fact that it's essentially a ripoff of the Deep Purple album from the Royal Albert Hall is brilliant, and I can't help but love. It also has the picture from Camel that the boys took, and they actually pay reference to that. And it starts off with the entirety of Blackwater Park, and then plays one song from each of their albums, starting with their first album going right up until Watershed, which was their last album of that. This was their 20th year anniversary, and I believe they were about to do their 30th year anniversary, because it's already been 10 years since the release of this album. Ugh, that's one way to make you feel old. I have very fond memories of this, and the way that they play Blackwater Park, their most popular album, I'd probably say, not my favorite. It holds some of their best music. I will fully agree to that. And being able to replicate it here in this setting was just fantastic. And the one thing that I also love about this album is that it has all those bumps and scrapes of a live recording still there with you. So like nothing's really been glossed over in that sense. So this is a great work. One of my favorite live performances from Opeth. Again, not my favorite, but one of my... I'm kind of contradicting myself. Not my favorite, but one of their best. And that's what I've got. Those are my 5. I know that there was a few that I didn't talk about, like Octane Twisted from Porcupine Tree, that has the entirety of the incident. But let me know of some of your favorites by commenting down below. What is your favorite live album from a band that features an entire studio album in their set list? And which were some of the ones on here that you don't necessarily agree with? Let me know all about that by commenting down below. And that's what I've got. So if you like what you see and you want to help support me, consider donating to my Patreon. I've left a link down below. Even $1 a month goes a long way. And if you want to see more of me, I've got Quid Pro Quo, my musical podcast, and I've got my tabletop role-playing game YouTube video stuff. So yeah, that's good too. And that's kind of what I've got. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.